How you doing, Dan?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me, Rob.
Thanks for coming on, man. I
I'm very
appreciate
excited to
it.
be here.
Absolutely. How's everything going on right now? Like you're close to the action down there.
Yes. It's been overall, I think it's been more peaceful. For those of you who don't know, I am here in New York. So I live in Brooklyn. So I've kind of been in the middle of it. This past weekend, actually, I went to one of the protests over at Washington Square Park,
Amazing.
and it was. I'm very glad that I went. It was something where I felt like this is some historical stuff we're living through right now,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
there was a lot of powerful things being said, and it was also amazing to see just the sheer volume of people, and everything I've been seeing the past few days overall has been relatively peaceful. Um,
Okay,
there's
that's
been
good because we're hearing bad
yeah,
stories like looting and Fifth Avenue's destroyed and
that was weird. We took an Uber from, because I'm over in Greenpoint. We took an Uber from Greenpoint over to Washington Square Park on Saturday. My girlfriend and a good friend of mine, and we're driving through by like Saks, Fifth Avenue, and all that stuff. And it's weird. It's all boarded up. Um,
yeah,
it's you know these are strange things going on, and
really strange. But I'm glad to
um,
hear there's good news stories coming out.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of change that's going to be happening. I think this is, no matter what, when you're dealing with something with social injustice, it's never going to be fixed overnight. And a lot of people were talking over a lot of really good actionable things at these protests, talking about getting out and voting, you know, paying attention to local elections, paying attention to your, who is being voted in as police commissioner, who is being voted
Right,
in as that, and
right.
being more kind of cognizant of who is representing you and who is representing your community.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's sorry, go on.
oh no, it's been, so like Sunday and Monday of last week it was nuts. There was a lot of violence. I think it was, the beginning of the protesting, and it was crazy because where my business is out on Long Island, there is a very expensive, prominent shopping center called the Americana. Billy Joel mentions it in a song, The Miracle Mile. And it was weird. The Apple store was all boarded up, all like, London Jewelers all boarded up, Tiffany's all boarded up. And it was definitely an eerie moment driving by that. Um, but again, out here, it's been relatively peaceful. But it's, I think a lot of people have just been unsure of what to do or what to say.
Right.
And everything on both sides has also been incredibly heated. If you don't side with one side, you're this, if you don't side with this side, you're that. And it's been an interesting thing navigating it. As a company, we put out a statement on our social media in support of Black Lives Matter. Overall,
Same.
really, really good feedback. And I had a couple people say, you're a business, you shouldn't be commenting on it.
Yep.
But I felt it felt weird not putting my support out there, I think, as a business.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I went to the protest. We've donated to a couple different organizations throughout this, and right now just trying to listen and help where I can. But it's been interesting being in the middle of it, for sure,
Oh man.
in terms of living, not
Yeah.
you know
No.
me personally.
Exactly.
Between COVID and this, it's been an interesting couple of months from a business standpoint as well.
The phrase "you can't please everybody" is so important right now, and you're gonna. I mean, if you try and land in some middle ground, you're gonna have more haters than if you
Yeah,
pick a side. And no matter what you do, there's going to be criticism and opinion, and so it's just you got to just go with your core values.
yeah. I think the underlying thing I've just been pushing is there needs to be a lot of love across the board, and you know,
Empathy.
empathy is super important. And if you've got people who are hurting, people need to listen. And there's this stuff is going to take time, and I think that's the end of my commentary on this stuff
I
overall.
agree. And learning,
Like, I don't.
and learning for me. I mean, holy jumping.
It's definitely been a learning experience for sure. You know, I've got a lot of friends who've been very active in the protests and things like that, and I think it's incredible what they've been out there doing.
Yeah.
But you know, I just want everyone to be safe.
Yeah.
That's the
Same.
biggest thing is I don't want to see people getting hurt. But
But there's a lot of good results coming out. I mean, there's also a lot of aggression. I mean, they're right now talking about there's a new political movement where they're talking about, I don't know what the exact phrase is, but basically disarming the police and in or transforming
it's happening.
their role. And
No,
it's so
it's
what
already happened. So
Minneapolis just fired them.
they are dismantling their police department, which, you know, I think it's going to be a very interesting experiment. You know, this is what is wanted. Let's see how it goes. I think
Totally.
that, you know, if, you know, you got some good plans, I don't think anyone's talking about, you know, making this into the Wild West and having it be a lawless part of the country. You know, I think
Can't have that.
communities, yeah, it's, you know, I know de Blasio pulled some money from the New York City Police Department's budget, and reallocating that to community projects and things like
Yeah.
that. And, you know, I'm not against that. I think, you know, if you're going to try these things, that's the only way to find out what works, is there are things that aren't working.
Yeah.
And there are definitely changes that need to be made. I have a lot of friends who are social workers who, you know, are talking about how there's a need for social workers in police departments. How, you know, police officers don't get the kind of training that social workers do. It's a different skill set.
That's
And,
true.
you know, it's not their job to be a social worker. And I think that is, you know, there's going to be some evolution in a lot of policing and all sorts of things like that.
I think ultimately things are going to land in a very good space, but it's not going to be overnight.
No, it's definitely not going to be overnight. I think, yeah, this is going to take time. I mean, what was it? The Montgomery bus protests were like 300 and something days. Like, these protests don't end overnight. So
yeah, well,
I hope everyone is safe during all of this. That's the number one thing.
that's number one thing too. I mean, that's exactly. And I mean, we just came off of a crazy first wave of COVID, and I have no idea, you know, I don't know if anyone else has any idea of really what wave 2 is going to bring, if it does bring anything
Really
over November.
November.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, so in Canada today, we just had a little bit from Saturday and Sunday are a little bit higher in new cases than Friday and Thursday. But as I understand, Saturday is up just because there was some delayed results from Thursday and Friday. So it's untrue if it necessarily went back up again. But of course, that's what it looks like. So we'll have to look for the next couple of days. But it's just because we've just been opened up really in Toronto. And now this past weekend, there's a picture of a bunch of people standing in front of a bar, not in the bar, but standing in front of a bar. And it looks like about 50 people and all just drinking on the street and like, you know, all really close to each other. And the beaches are just packed now and everything's kind of right back to where it was, except you just can't go into public, like
restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so it's getting abused again, because people are just, they're done with it almost. And so I don't know how that's going to impact numbers and new cases, if that's going to, or if, you know, I have no idea how that's going to do, but people are behaving differently, like they're done with it.
Honestly, it all changed when the weather started warming up. Like, you know, when it's cold out and it's dreary, it's all right. You know, I'll stay inside. I'll watch Netflix. I'll order some takeout.
Right.
And then the first weekend that everything warmed up, everybody was out. But yeah, the protests, you know, it was wall to wall. You know, the park was filled. We were getting ready to we were gonna go meet up with some other people, and there is just this wall of people coming towards us, and there's just like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, and this is all around the country.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed there's not a spike after all this stuff.
So how long were you shut down for?
The business or the state?
Business.
We closed our doors officially, I think it was March 23rd or March 24th. It was like a down to the wire decision. I was talking to my head of HR, and we were supposed to do a call with our team to discuss our steps moving forward. And I was like freaking out, trying to come up with every possible thing that we can do to keep everybody working. And then I kind of
Yeah.
like took a step back and I was like, all right, let's call it. And literally like 5 minutes before I got on a call with my managers, that was when the decision was made. Because, I take it very seriously, like the safety aspect of it, as well as, the livelihood of my employees. So it was definitely tough. And then I walked dogs throughout the duration of it, because in New York, we were deemed an essential business. Somehow we were able to work our way into the category, obviously, because, we're animal care. So, we have a lot of clients who are doctors. We have a lot of clients who are seniors, or just people who physically can't get their dogs outside. So I was commuting back and forth from Brooklyn out to Long Island 7 days a week. And in the beginning, it was definitely a little bit nerve-wracking. This is before, we had as much information as we do now about this disease, or about this virus rather. And it was definitely, I was a little anxious the first week going in and out of places, but like, man, my hands were so dry and cracked from washing them and purelling them and all that stuff. But after a few weeks, we kind of got a little more used to it. And then I brought my team back when we got the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And that was, I think, the first week of, no, it was April 15th or April 18th, something like that. So like, in terms of full staffing, we were only down completely for about 3 weeks to a month. Then I brought my management team back, and we just kind of went to work overhauling all of our systems and things like that, our onboarding process, our training materials. Like everyone has been so exhausted, because it's like a different kind of work
Yeah.
versus, the normal day-to-day chaos of, dealing with upwards of 200 visits and managing 30 to 40 employees. This was over, thinking our structure and planning everything out. So it was a different shift. I brought some people back in to do content creation. So I had some people doing, writing blog pieces for us. We were overhauling our social media campaigns, filming a ton of videos. We started our own podcast, actually called Let's Talk About Cool Animals. And that's why we got all this stuff. Yet I have no idea how most of it works. So it was definitely a productive time. And then we officially reopened on May 18th.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. So the pay protection, what that New York was able to offer, was that like a full on payroll, or was that like a 90%? Like, did they?
So 75% of the money had to be utilized for payroll, which we have been doing.
Yep.
And then 25% was for like utilities and things like that. I mean, our landlord was great, because like after the first week of this, I was like, look, I don't know when we're going to have money coming in. And he was like, don't worry, just, when you're ready,
Yeah.
just make sure to just let us know. But yeah, we were very lucky. My landlords weren't so cool. I don't love the landlord where I'm at. But no, overall, the PPP, honestly, like it's scary as a business owner. I've been building this business for 10 years now. And to go from, upwards of 100 and something thousand a month down to maybe $1,500 in revenue, maybe $2,000 in revenue in a month. That was, I had a big payroll and all that stuff. It was scary. So like getting that loan was we were very lucky to get that. We got it relatively early. So
It was a loan. It wasn't given money. It was
the way it works is, as long as you can prove that money was used to either continue to pay your employees or bring your employees back, the money that is used for payroll will be forgiven.
Oh.
So that is, we basically were able to get everyone back to work for about a full 2 months.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so that's quite helpful.
Yes, no, it's tremendously helpful.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about a second wave.
It's insane. No, oh my God, it is absolutely, and it's the amount of, so your first, I know from my experience, the minute that March 24 was when our day was, our premier announced we're shutting down, and then we sent all the employees home. And at that time I knew that these people were going to be able to collect unemployment, because they were employees and such. So we're like, okay, go. And then I took on a handful of dogs myself, just like you did. And and all the precautions were easy. Like I've been communicating with my clients throughout for the whole weeks leading up to that. And they know I'm not going to write notes. Don't go near us, near the door, sanitize the doorway.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me when we're coming in, kind of thing. And I felt really safe. My first step foot into a grocery store in that same week, I'm like, I'm getting COVID. This is horrible. And I thought maybe I'll just stay at the daycare and sleep there because I didn't want to get my family sick. Cause I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
going to the grocery store and this is a petri dish.
Yeah, we ended up actually starting to offer. We've always like offered it, but not really pushed it. The grocery and pharmacy stuff, and that I had the same thing. Like I was comfortable going in and out of houses. I know where they were. You know, I had my gloves, had everything, and then going to a grocery store. I'm like, oh, there's so many people in here.
Yeah. And they don't actually care.
Which was just such a weird experience to go through of just being like, this is an anxiety-inducing experience going to a grocery store.
Anxiety is the exact emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the global anxiety just went.
Man. So Dan Reitman,
Yes.
you are a dog walker. You're an employer.
Yes.
You're an entrepreneur. You're a philanthropist. You're a podcaster.
Podcaster now. I could add that to the list of commas.
And you're a dog. You're a dog lover. Am I missing anything?
Sure. As we go through this, I'll come up with something extra. I love those extra things I could throw in there. I don't like sitting still.
What's that?
I don't like sitting still. That's what it really boils down to.
A serial mover.
Yes.
Mover and shaker. The podcast is interesting. Cool animals. I listened to the one where you guys were talking about the headless chicken.
Oh, headless Mike. Yes.
Man, oh man, that is free. It's freaky. And I mean, you know about these things, but to hear it described is just freaked me right out. But it was so cool at the same time. It wasn't like a one emotion. It was just kind of a conflicting of the two. But it was very cool to hear about the chop the head, but the brain part of the brain stays, and then it
the
doesn't
brain
even know.
stem. Like I knew that there had like one. I knew that like you know the whole phrase "chicken with its head cut off." I knew that was a thing, but I never really knew like the physiology and the biology behind it. So you know when we started doing the research for this, you know we do pretty deep dives. Moro does a lot of the heavy research, and I just kind of go down some wormholes and we come together because we try to do some research separate and then surprise each other with stuff. But man, it turns out that the majority of the basic, you know, reflexes and functionality of a chicken, breathing, heart rate, and things like that, it's not in the brain. It exists in the brainstem. So if you cut ahead the right way, and I'm not advising anyone to go out there and try this. This is not an endorsement of trying to create another headless Mike. But the way it cut, he was able to breathe. His heart rate was still going, and luckily there was a blood clot that stopped him from bleeding to death. So his chicken lived, I think it was a year and a half after.
How does it live and not consume food or water?
So it does. So he's got a little dropper where he gave him it was a mixture of, it was like milk and water, and then he would give him little kernels of corn and other like meal. Yeah, in the little mouth hole.
Oh, I guess because it would. Oh,
there's still like a hole there.
Yeah,
it was. And the horrible thing was, one, they made. I mean, obviously, we'd love everyone to go listen to the podcast, but
yeah, for sure,
they made a ton of money traveling and showing this chicken to the point where people around the country wanted to reproduce this. So they're just chopping chickens' heads off and trying different angles and stuff like that. And you know, the longest anybody had it happen was like 3 days. But this headless Mike lived, I think it was about 15 to 18 months. I can't remember. There was actually a punk rock band that named themselves after Headless Mike, and they had a song called Headless Mike. We actually reached out to them via Facebook, and they they were really pumped that we covered their song on the podcast. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I mean, Moro and I, and the way we talk in the podcast, that's how we interact in real life. We're constantly just like arguing and bantering with each other.
Yeah.
So it's something he's been pushing us to do for a long time. I just never really knew what we wanted to cover, because we wanted to do something that was educational but also entertaining. You know what I mean? Like I want something that people can learn about, something interesting, and it's not us just talking at you. It's, you know, we want to have some sort of
Yeah.
comedic component to what we do.
The term that Tim and Sid use, a TV show up here in Canada, a sports show, is edutainment.
Yes. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, me too.
That's what we're gunning for. I mean, some of our videos are more entertainment than than entertainment. I don't know if you've seen the Dog Walkers Try series that we started on YouTube.
No, so I've spent like 10 minutes listening to each, like a couple ones, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I got a feel for it. This is cool.
The Dog Walkers Try one started. We've been getting dog treats and stuff sent to us just because companies are sending us stuff through our social media, and we, you know, people do taste testing of food, so we decided let's try these dog treats. And we started with one where it was dog treats, and we've done another with dog ice cream. And me and Moro puts on a dog costume, and we go and try different dog treats and foods and things like that. We give them our honest review. Most of them don't taste that great. There are some out there. Milk Bones still by far my favorite dog treat I've ever had.
Real.
Yeah,
I
but
can't
some
believe
of them
we're
are
talking about
gross. I
Yeah.
don't recommend them.
So it is. I don't know what I don't know what it is, but so I also have a company that makes dog food, and they're
Yes.
patties, and the dogs go insane for them. You can't even, like, they're just ravenous for them. But and it's human grade ingredients, so anyone can eat them. But you take a bite of them, and they're just, like, what is going on? This is just bland. It's like you're eating cardboard. I can't understand. But the dogs, you're right. Dogs, just their senses are just outstanding. Just
Yeah, that was one thing that I didn't realize, like, until we started trying some of these treats, because they have these incredibly powerful, potent smells. And then
mm-hmm.
you bite it, you're like, this is kind of bland, or this doesn't taste that good. But
It's
it's
horrible.
those olfactory senses are so powerful in dogs. Um, that yeah, like the dog beer was probably the grossest one.
There's dog beer. I didn't know that.
There is, I mean, it's non-alcoholic, but it's, you know, it comes in a little bottle. It's not even carbonated. I don't know how they get away with calling it beer.
Is it even
Um,
made with malt, or I mean, sorry, hops?
I think they are. Pet Winery makes it because they have cat wine too. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting space for sure.
Oh my god! So wait, what's your podcast called?
So the podcast is called Let's Talk About Cool Animals, or Lataka as we call it. Our publicist wants us to shorten the name, but we're pretty
Yeah,
set on Let's Talk About Cool Animals.
I know. Things that are logical and business wise, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make the best connection with and trust with the audience. And sometimes the craziest things can relate so well.
Yeah, I mean, like, my business name is ridiculously long. It's Dan's Dog Walking and Pet Sitting. That's a mouthful. Instead of, like, most of our social media handles are just Dan's Pet Care, which that's
Mm-hmm.
easy to say. But from an SEO standpoint, I didn't realize this when I started. We ended up in a really good position because the name has dog walking and pet sitting in it.
Mm-hmm.
We just ranked a lot more favorably. I know if you Google us, I think if you look up like dog walking website, we're on the first page. So that has worked to our advantage for sure over time.
100%. And I mean, that's how I found you. I was Googling dog walkers in New York. I wanted to talk
Mhm.
to some dog walkers out there. And so you're in Long Island, Port Washington specifically.
That is our base, yes.
Washington. And so I'm looking at dog walkers, and Dan's dog walking pops up, and I'm like, how the heck is like this one dude popping up so well over like companies? And so like I started investigating, and I'm blown away by the website, firstly because it had the perfect combination of simplicity but also access to information.
Oh,
There's
well,
so much.
thank you. We spend a lot of time on that. We're constantly working on it and chipping away at it.
You know those sites where you get to a site and there's so many options, and you're just like, screw this, I don't even know where to start. And
Yeah.
it's like there's so much information that I was able to access, but you had it, like the navigation of it, it was categorized in such a way that I didn't feel lost. I felt, okay, this is great. But once I started diving in, I was like, my God, I can spend a week here. Like,
Well, thank you. We definitely, we have a ton of content up on the site. We try to have as many resources available for our clients, for, you know, dog lovers, animal lovers in general. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think people don't always realize it. Having a clean and concise but like accessible website, that's as important as having a beautiful storefront.
Oh yeah.
It's your digital storefront. And some people just, it blows my mind. I see some companies' websites and I'm like, how do you get business? Like, or like the ones that are struggling, I'm like, this makes, take some time. And, if you're not good at it, like I lucked out. I've been, doing this stuff for a while in terms of being in the digital space. So I had at least somewhat of an understanding, but it definitely turned into something where, I don't get it. Some people just don't take the time or put in the work, but hire somebody. Sometimes it's definitely worth the money for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was hesitant to get in there because there's a whole tangent that can be gotten into, but I generally feel that a lot of folks believe 100% that if you take care of the dogs will take care of your business. And I just find that insanely horrible advice.
No,
And
but
I see that behavior. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's not even close.
Not even close. But I see that underlying philosophy being driven in a lot of independent dog walkers businesses. And of course that's what this whole podcast here is about, is just trying to bring a few tips and tricks and just maybe some philosophy game changers, if you will, to independent dog walkers mostly. I mean, if a business owner, an employer can get something out of it, that's great. But and that's what, when I saw your website, it wasn't just that it was well organized, but then the blog stuff started. I started seeing some of the content, and I think you're one of the first dog walkers that I've seen on their website talk about canine enrichment aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go into a meet and greet with clients, I talk about my triangle of mental, physical, social stimulation.
Yeah.
I'm like, your blog, you're one of your last blogs. Like I haven't went to your site today, but was specifically those three things. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is amazing. Like this guy is talking about the stuff we're talking about. And that's all, like, I think, a foundation of canine enrichment. And so what is it about? Like, where did you think of those things? Where did you hear about canine? Are you just naturally talking about canine enrichment, or do you know of canine enrichment as a practice?
No, so that kind of happened naturally. One of the guys I brought back for writing content while we were, in this kind of standstill phase, Dylan. So what we did in the beginning was a bunch of our managers, we got together and we just came up with a list of it was 300 or 400 different articles that we wanted to write. And then we prioritized them. And then we were just talking about the different topics. And that's kind of how it came up. That's so funny that one stood out to you. I'll let him know. He'll be very happy to hear that.
For sure. Do you know of canine enrichment as a practice?
The general basics, but I definitely have not been as
You didn't label it. You didn't label it that.
No.
So that's funny. So a lot of when people are good at something naturally,
yeah,
they're not necessarily the best at articulating that particular theory. For instance, Wayne Gretzky, not a great coach.
Yeah.
Naturally gifted hockey player. Michael Jordan, etc. These people, and then because they're almost like, because as players would talk about, he's basically saying, be good. and I'm not saying that's how you are in coaching canine enrichment dog walking, but it's just basically like you're doing it, but you didn't know it was called canine enrichment necessarily.
Yeah. I think it's definitely the focus on covering all aspects of animal care. It's not just about taking the dog for a walk. It's about stimulating them. It's about making sure that they're eating the right things. Cause
that's amazing.
It's the one thing that drives me nuts is when I see an overweight dog, because unless it has you've got a thyroid issue or something physical, your dog is not getting drunk and going to the Taco Bell at 2 a.m. Your dog can't gain weight without you.
No.
It's
exactly.
one of those things where, you are in charge of what your animal eats. Do you know how badly I wish I could have it where somebody just hands me what food I get for the day and I don't get a say in it? I would be in great shape if that was the case.
Everyone would. I know. That's the funniest thing we talk about all the time is the dogs don't have a choice. They only, It's so insane. Obviously now we're getting dogs back coming. This is our second week now back. This is Monday. And there's some really heavy duty dogs right now. And
They've
we're
choked
like,
up.
wow, in 2 months, I can't believe how fat this, one dog got. And I don't want to say their names right now, but it's because
It all comes from a place of love, though.
it does come from a place of
Yeah.
love. But there's some people. So I've my hairdresser, I saw, like, she hooked me up with a friend of hers, and I mentioned, oh yeah, they got I met with her friends. I'm like, yeah, they have a pretty overweight dog. And she's like, he's not overweight. And I was like, oh, I better not talk about this anymore. Dog was super huge.
Yeah.
And like, it needed some running and probably half its food cut in half. We've got clients like that'll have our farmly food, and I'm telling them this dog needs only 2 patties a day. But but then if it boards with us, she'll say, okay, give him 4 patties a day. And I'm like,
It's too many calories.
that's insane. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't understand where like, you can't look at your dog. It looks like a football right now. And I don't know how people can't see that. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's, I used to work as a tech at one of our local animal hospitals. That's where I got started in this business. And that was one of the things you would see all the time. And like, I saw it over, a period of years where we'd have it where a dog would gain some weight, and then they blow their cruciate ligament, and then they have to have surgery. And then they don't follow through on the rehab and making sure the dog gets strong again. And the dog gains more weight, and they blow the other cruciate ligament. They gain more weight. They develop diabetes. And then, it doesn't, it's a very, very avoidable trajectory. And it's something that I think is definitely coming much more to the forefront. I mean, like, the explosion in, home delivery pet food companies has been huge. When I had office space in the city for my tech company, every day I would see this little Roddy and a little, King Charles, little puppies running up and down the hallway. And after the second day, I was like, all right, I got to find out where these dogs are coming from. And, I walk up and I was like, hey, saw your dogs. Dog's super cute. Is it okay if I say hi? And he's, yeah, absolutely. And this guy's name was Brett. And he's like, oh, I'm starting a dog food company. And, it's, home delivery. I'm like, oh, it's a great idea. And fast forward to today. I don't know if you're familiar with the farmer's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Nice.
So it was, I was like, that is a good idea. No one's really doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's become a massive, massive industry now.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I think it's great. I think it's a very positive evolution. I think the industry as a whole is changing. People are looking at what they're eating. People are, my girlfriend's a nutritionist. So up until her and I started dating, I would eat food and all of a sudden my hands would constantly swell up, but I just kind of had a terrible diet. Like, I'd eat a pizza at 2 a.m. with chicken kickers and things like that. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Chicken kickers?
Yeah, from Domino's. It's trash food. Don't eat it.
It sounds amazing though.
They're delicious. They're so good for a 2 a.m. snack, for sure. But no, after our second or third date of my hand swelling up, she was like, I think you have a gluten allergy. And I was like, nah. Turns out I had a gluten allergy. I went to the doctor and, I changed how I ate. It impacted my mental state, how I felt physically. I lost weight. And it's the exact same thing with animals. If you put good things in, they're going to feel good. If you don't give them good stuff, your dog's not going to want to go for a run. Your dog's not going to want to, run around the house. And over time, it's just not going to go well from a health standpoint.
Yeah. We're moving there's a shift now from dog as the family's pet to being
part of the
family.
Yeah.
And a family member. And it's still not there's still a mix.
Yeah.
But they're transitioning into that. And it's, and then you get the odd client where that's not the case, but the overwhelming majority now for us is that they're family members. And that's now our target market as official definition. Of we don't, if I meet with someone and I get a sense that, none of what the differentiators make any sense to them. It's like, they're just, all they want is someone to go walk their dog and whatever. Then it's like, we're not a fit. I don't work with them. I'm only working with people that are adamant that they're very intent on the canine enrichment aspects of it. And such. And so we really just want to focus on that group of clientele because they're emerging and growing, and it's best it's best for
I think
dogs.
it's smart too. The people that are willing to learn and listen and want to,
Grow.
help keep their pets safe and healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
No.
of trying to, twist someone's arm into doing something that they're just not going to do.
Man. So you started, when did you start your business? 2009?
2009, November 1st, 2009.
Okay. So what were some of the biggest struggles getting started?
I mean, I don't think I recognized them then. I was, how old was I? I was 22. And to say I was arrogant was an understatement. I think it was after my first year of being in business, I was like, oh my God, I'm great at this. I had no idea what I was doing. And I think that it was school, because I had dropped out of school and taken some time off. And then I decided to go back, and I took an intro business, an intro entrepreneurship class, and then an intro marketing class. I wrote my first business plan, my first marketing plan. And I was like, oh, this is stupid. And then realized how important it was to get all your things down on paper and have structure. Like the tagline that we use for the business, we still use, actually we kind of phased it out, but it was, quality pet care by caring professionals. And I wrote that like 10 something years ago.
Yeah.
And it was still on some of our branding up until like last year. I think the things that I was facing 10 years ago are definitely different than it is today. So like my first means of getting business was I got neon pink flyers, and I knew that I wanted to target the commuter crowd. So I went to the local train stations and I hung them up, and I waited, and then I started getting some calls. So I went out and I hung up more flyers and continued to hang up flyers. I had no idea about invoicing, managing books. I knew I needed a card, I needed a t-shirt, and I needed a website. I don't even think I had a website actually when I started. I was a mess. So like anybody out there who is just getting started, the amount of information that's accessible and available about getting into the industry, like go out and consume. Because that was the one thing that I did that really helped me was my Audible account probably has like 400 or 500 books in it. Like my first 3 years of starting this business was primarily me out walking dogs constantly. And I just consumed and consumed and consumed as much content as I could pertaining to business, managing, developing skills, all that kind of stuff. It was, it's definitely a different market though today. This was before WAG, this is before Rover, this is before, I mean, this is before Facebook had business pages. I made a personal account, and I just squished the name of the company into a first name and a last name. So it was, oh man, even like thinking back to some of the content we put out, I would like make graphs in like PowerPoint and then screenshot them and then throw them up as a post on Facebook. It was, it was nuts. It was definitely, let's see what works.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it.
Neon signs, definitely been there, done that. We found that we just got too many prank calls. And
Really?
yeah, I got a lot of prank calls from kids. And just like you pick up, you talk about I ask them a question about their dog, and then they start laughing, giggling, and hang up and stuff.
I used to get my friends every now and then would call the business drunk at like 2 a.m. And it was fine when it was just me. But once I started having employees, they were like, somebody was calling and yelling at it. I'm like, I know who it was.
Oh my God. But it's cool because back then before you even executed, you had to consciously choose your target market, or at least aspects. You didn't maybe necessarily know. I don't know if you play any games online, but like things like fog of war is a concept in games where you can't really see anything until you kind of discover parts of the territory. And like you understood that commuters, that's a part of the definition of your target market. And that's really, I find that so important. And it's a missing concept. A lot of folks are doing just like, yes, let's anything. I want anything.
I did do yes for a while. I had a point where like I didn't even consolidate our service area. I was driving, I think at one point, like almost like 100 and something miles a day, just like all over. I think in less than a year, I put like 65 or 70,000 miles on my car. It was a lot.
And then you filled up and you're like, my God, I can't take any clients that are even nearby now.
Yeah, it was a good, it was an interesting balancing act. And it was also, as your business is, business grows and evolved, if you're not a people management kind of person, which I definitely was not, there's a lot of learning, and it took me a lot longer than it should have for me to bring somebody in who is good at that. And I think that's one thing it took me a long time to recognize is like, if you can hire for your weaknesses, and if you can't hire for it, reach out to the people that are good at what you are not and ask them for advice, like offer to do something for free, whatever. I have an agreement with, I've done a ton of different kind of service swaps with people. We have a fantastic head of HR who she's got a full-time gig in the city, but she started off as consulting with me, and she now, she jumps in on calls. She is amazing because that's not really my thing. I'm not a very patient person, which is something I've had to develop over the years for sure. For those of, the people that have been with me for 6-7 years, remember me when I was a little bit less enjoyable to have disciplinary conversations with.
A little more raw.
Yeah, I was awful. Like, it really was awful.
Same,
Um,
same.
but yeah, it's,
Sure.
it's you learn. And that's the biggest thing. And, especially being that age, I was so young and arrogant. Like, the arrogance is just like, ugh, you're awful.
I
That's
think,
like one of the biggest things. I want to look back and be like, you don't know what you're doing. Shut up.
I know.
Like, I still don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And it's actually, for me now, being able to say, I don't know what I'm doing is refreshing and creates a space of opportunity. 5 years ago, I'm like, I'm afraid of saying that.
Yeah.
Some weird reason, and I didn't
It is weird how like you get past that certain point and then you're like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can somebody help me?
Yeah, exactly. Or like, sorry that you have to deal with this. I don't know what I'm doing
Yeah.
on this specific aspect. And I don't know how it was for you, but for me, when I started, I undervalued the importance of relationship building and it would be more like with people, like people that work for us. And so it'd be more like, oh, this is what we need to do. This is the tasks, go do them, whatever, and whatever. And it was just all transactionary, where it's like now, although I'm still learning and I'm still struggling, but I'm at least now it's like my relationships are like very, very, very important. And of course, I somehow surprisingly have a better team, but it's not coincidental. It's me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I realized the value of like team and culture, but I realized I was doing a horrible job creating the culture. So like I wanted it, but I wasn't doing the right things. I didn't put the right accountability infrastructure in place. And it ended up where, I've definitely had a bunch of situations with, former managers where I definitely didn't handle myself the right way. And, I would take things personally, and it was just like,
Yeah.
it is just business. And, of course there's going to be emotions involved. Anyone who says otherwise, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
But, it's learning about how to manage those emotions, keep them separate, have fact-based conversations with people, and, try to see things from people's perspectives. But, I'm constantly trying to learn and grow and evolve because,
Yeah.
if you don't, you're dead in the water.
That's a really good point. And so there's a couple things here, because we're talking about employment, an employer, but also as a dog walker. And just before we get into the employment stuff, I want to ask you, what do you think are some of the most critical things that a new independent dog walker needs to nail in order to have some good success, or at least mitigate risk?
Well, to mitigate risk, make sure you have insurance and a good contract. So making sure that you've got yourself covered, even if it seems expensive, a lawyer reviewing your stuff is really, really important. But from a client standpoint, um, I feel like I'm going to go kind of against the grain with this because people are always talking about it, the importance of setting boundaries with clients and stuff like that. I was the total, like I had boundaries. I wouldn't like add them to my Facebook and stuff like that. But I would get calls from clients 2 a.m. Hey, I'm drunk in the city. Can you go walk the dog? Yeah, no problem. Hey, my car broke down. Do you mind picking up my kids from the bus stop? Yeah, no problem. If people are willing to trust me with that stuff, I knew that there was something there. So I just kind of kept doing I mean, I had a client where both her mother and her father had to have surgery. So I was helping her dad like walk around the house and giving her mom eye drops. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I wonder how pissed she'd be if she knows she hired the dog walker to be giving her medicine. But it's the little things that people remember. It's going above and beyond. It's making sure that people know that you're not just, you're not just a number on a page. You're not just a amount of money that we charge every week. Like, I genuinely care about my clients. I genuinely care about the people that work for me. And when that comes through, if you really try to take that with you to work, people pick up on that. Not everyone, and you can't do it for the sake of wanting that feedback. But that's one of the things that I think really helped me build the reputation of trust that our company has now is, doing these things where we went above and beyond, and, getting those calls from a client. Hey, I'm going into labor. Can you make sure you take the dog out tomorrow morning? Absolutely. No problem. Like, and we still have those services. We still get that. Like, I have a client who they're on their fourth baby, and we've been there almost every time when they've,
Yeah.
when they've had to go in for labor. It's just so important is really making sure that I think going the extra mile, you know, from a selfish standpoint, it pays dividends. It really does. Whether it's, you know, you have to work a little bit longer, but give one of your really good managers time off, or you have to kind of stay a little bit later or cover a walk because an employee has a family emergency or doing something like that. Like, for the people that work for you as well as for the people that, employ you, just them both knowing that you care. And that's always just been a cornerstone of what we've done here. And so far it's paid off.
Yeah.
Hoping it doesn't bite me in the butt, but
What technologies are absolute musts for an independent dog walker?
oh my God, there's so many. Well, I
What's the
highly
core one?
advise GPS tracking on the visits for two reasons. One, you want to make sure your employees are actually walking the dog. And two, if a client says that you didn't walk the dog, you have something to back it up. So those are two scenarios that you don't want to be in, but absolutely can and will arise if you're around long enough or you have enough clients. So the GPS tracking is super, super important. And then I think a solid means of managing and being able to dish out tasks if you have a management team. We've actually been in the process of overhauling like our task flow and our workflows here. Just because I that's one of my big weaknesses. I'm not an organized person, and I make it very clear that I'm not. So, because I always ask, I'm like, look, if you don't see me writing it down, just make sure you assign it to me on Asana, just because I don't want to forget. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm accountable to them, because that's one thing I think a lot of employers don't always think about is like, you're accountable to your employees. Your job is to set them up to be successful, and if you're not doing that, why are they going to work hard for you? If you're not showing up for them, they're not going to show up when you need them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think, I think that way of doing business has definitely changed a lot. You've got guys like Gary Vee out there pushing all the positivity and, empathy, and that stuff is important. I think it's been a fantastic change. And also selfishly, it feels good, being and doing the right thing for the people that employ you and work for you.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. For someone who's a dog walker, not an employer, just a dog walker, what are some critical mistakes that you would advise to watch out for?
Um, Again, lawyer, definitely make sure you have a contract. Um, it's, it's one of those things you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah.
It on many occasions, it's protected me, it's protected my staff, but it's something that you want to make sure you definitely do. Also, take care of yourself. Like, take time for you. It's something that I've had to have like banged into my head over and over again. Um, up until this year, I probably was working 7 days a week, at least 10 to 12 hours a day. And that was like a slow day for me, because I never saw that. I saw it as a weakness, taking time off.
Yeah.
That person's lazy. Oh, that person doesn't want to. No, that person needs their brain to recover. And again, my lovely girlfriend has overhauled a big chunk of my life, but she got me into meditation.
I was just about to ask that.
Yeah, meditation's been big. If you have one near you, the isolation tanks or like the isolation chambers, oh my God, the float tanks are amazing.
We have one in Liberty Village, I believe, in the west end of Toronto. There's one tank like that.
I recommend it. It's a
Right.
little bit weird at first. It's definitely an eerie feeling of just being in this. Like, if you're claustrophobic, like this might not be for you.
Right.
Um, but if you get into a good like state of clearing your mind, and like I have had it where I've come out of those things, and like I could have had the worst day in the world. I come out, I'm like, all right, I'm good. Like a complete mental reset.
Yeah.
That was a big shift that I've done. I mean, I'm still kind of up and down with making sure I'm taking care of my like mental health with that stuff, but you know, if you are not the healthiest you can be and you are not in the best mental and physical shape you can be in, you're going to have a hard time. You know, when something stressful happens, you're going to lose it versus if you know, have some good thought processes going on when you're dealing with struggles or you're dealing with like an emergency, you're going to be able to think clearly. Like it's about being able to respond in a way that's not just reactionary, but you can think in a way that you're not just you're like, all right, let's do this, and this. And I mean, like even with COVID in the beginning, I was like, and
Yeah.
then I kind of took a step back and was like, all right, there's literally nothing I can do here to change this. So let me get to work. And that's what I did. And we got so much stuff done. So
Uh,
take care of yourself, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and always have a good lawyer.
we're gonna always have a good lawyer. I agree.
Lawyer.
We have a we use a company that where we pay like monthly, and whether we use them or not, but I just have this access to calling them, and it's specifically legal HR. And so they do contracts, they do our safety protocols and our handbook and stuff. But most importantly, it's about giving a phone call and just asking them a question about scenarios. And can I do this? No. Okay. What about this? And in contracts, whenever I need custom contracts, because my first contract, pet care agreement, cost me $800, and that was a custom one. Sorry, it was 1,200.
Yeah.
In my first fire, cost me like $1,600 for the contract.
Yeah.
The document and the time, the consulting and stuff too, which was only like, I don't know, maybe half an hour on the phone, right? So like the rest, it's crazy.
Consulting's not a bad place to be.
No, it's not a bad place to be. And the more you do business with other vendors, the more you learn, like, my God, am I in the right business? But
I've been getting, the consulting thing calls me, but like I'm like a dog chasing a car right now with this business trying to like really grow it. Consulting will always be there.
good for you. That's awesome that you still got that juice, and I love that. A part of the business, the dog walking business, is so interesting. I mean, especially now that the apps are coming out, it, for a lot of folks, it gets them worried and angry and whatever. And for me, I'm just like, amazing. Like, this is like a real live competitor that you can kind of go after and kind of try and get the talking points against and whatnot. Like, so like your eyes just kind of lit up when we're talking about that. How are you feeling? Like, what do you how's WAG and Rover for you?
I can't wait for them to file bankruptcy.
Yeah. I mean, so that's amazing.
No. Like, I want to be the cause of them filing bankruptcy. That's why I say it that way.
Yeah.
No, I think people look at those things the wrong way. WAG and Rover existing shouldn't be a threat. It is a massive validation of the existence of this marketplace.
I agree.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in investment funding has been thrown in. Now, SoftBank pulled $300 million out of WAG because, the world's on fire. But, you got to look at it. You can't, unless you're a business who is trying to scale globally, you can't worry about like what WAG's doing in LA if you're here in New York.
Exactly.
I think when you've got something like WAG and Rover, I think it's a great place to start out if you're just getting started
I
to
think
get
Barkley is
clients.
out there too. Barkley's a new one.
Yeah, Barkley too. That's so funny. I actually spoke to the CEO of Barkley like a month or 2 months ago, something
Oh
like
yeah. How
that.
come?
Through my HR person, she was just putting me in contact with him. Just want to have a conversation with him, learn about the company and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been an interesting progression because I remember hearing about WAG about 4 years ago, 5 years ago when they first started rolling out. And I
Yeah.
was like, I was arrogant. I was like, no one's gonna do that. No one's gonna hire a stranger to come walk their dog. Just the
I never
same way
got it too.
cab companies were like, nah, no one's gonna just get in this car with a stranger. Like, what do you think a taxi is, man? Like, I don't know my taxi driver. And it was definitely something where kind of what my biggest fear in business is being Blockbuster. That is like my nightmare, is being the company who's like, no, people want to come into the stores because they like to meet their neighbor and see the back of the box. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
If you could lay in bed naked and hit a button and have the movie play, your store is dead. And that's really what we're doing right now. Is we're in the process of building out an end-to-end platform to automate our entire business and make it so we're ready to scale, and without compromising our quality of service. So our team can really focus on customer service, making sure the staff have what they need, our services are being delivered correctly, and us having the data to be able to make decisions.
That's amazing. So you believe that the market for strangers to come and walk their dogs is going to grow?
I think the market for people coming to walk their dogs is going to grow. I think I think Wagon Rover did one thing amazingly. They solved a staffing problem in our industry.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the hardest things for us, at least. And I hear this
It is.
constantly, is people, I'm sure you guys deal with this too, finding good people. Now, the difference between now and 5 years ago, somebody who might have come to work for me in the past is now on WAG potentially, or Rover. But I think over time, because they don't have training, there's no accountability infrastructure. There's nothing ensuring that if you have a walk schedule and there's not a lot of WAG people in your area, and that person bails, your dog's not getting a walk that day. If it happens in my company and I have 4 people who aren't able to come, I'm going out and walking the dog.
Yeah.
And like, that's always been the number one thing here, is making sure that services are delivered. And it doesn't matter, all the other things that are happening. Cause like, I think Wagon Rover are tech companies. They're not service businesses. If something happens with your dog, you're calling WAG customer service. You don't know where that customer service is. Like, my team has, good relationships with their clients, and there is a way to scale that. That's one of the main reasons Amazon bought Zappos, was their customer service. That's why customers continue to go back there. That's actually a great book. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's a book about Zappos and their level of customer service. I will send you that, maybe if you want to put it in show notes.
Yeah, I will. Book about Zappos. I'm just writing this as well.
Yeah.
Book about Zappos. So that's cool. There's a few gems I've gotten here too, like hire for your weaknesses. Where did you hear that? Or did you learn that? Because a lot of stuff you learn as you go.
I've probably heard it said by tons of different people.
Yeah.
Most of the things that I'm saying definitely are not original thoughts. They are me just vomiting out smart things smarter people have said to me. It might have even been my HR person.
Right.
Hire for your weakness.
Makes sense though, of course. I mean, they always talk about that with partnerships. When you partner with someone, don't partner with you. Right?
I wouldn't want to partner with myself. I'm a nightmare.
But you gotta have complementary skill sets for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And so have you read E-Myth?
I have not. It's on my list though.
Oh, it's on your list?
Yeah, it's in my Audible.
Yeah, totally read it. Loved it. At the time I was like, oh yeah, this is like revolutionary. And then as I look back on it, I'm like, you know what, it was quite helpful. Like it seems obvious, some of the stuff, but there's a lot of like solid takeaways. I'm going to reread it again as well, because some good books you just need to reread because you miss so much.
Yeah, I'm rereading Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 right now.
Oh, really?
I love that book.
How 0 to 1? I have not read that, but I've seen it. How about
Highly recommend it.
0 to 1? Yeah, okay. How about the oldie but a goodie, 7 habits
Of highly effective people.
of highly effective people? Yeah.
Or another great one, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Fantastic book.
That's one of the best.
You know who got me in the beginning? Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I love Tim Ferriss. I think he's fantastic. But
Yeah.
like, when I was starting my business, I was just anything of his I could consume, I would consume. I got so excited because like we tagged him, like he mentioned something about getting a new dog. So like through our company account, I was like, hey, if you're ever in New York and need a dog walker, and he like responded, I was like fangirl. But yeah, no, his first book, 4 Hour Work Week, was so impactful in me starting my business in terms of like automation, the use of VAs. He gave you a blue. Now, like everything he did in there, like doesn't apply to every business, but that is something that I used to actually keep copies of in like our office, and I would give them to people because I've always done like mentoring and stuff like that with like younger guys trying to start guys and girls trying to start businesses.
Yeah.
And that was always my go-to is 4 Hour Work Week.
Is that your favorite, Tim? What's that?
No one actually works a 4 Hour work week. I don't even think he does. It was a nice idea. I love his stuff. I love Gary V. Richard Branson's great.
Tim Ferriss's book, Titans. Have you read that one?
I haven't read all of it because I listened to so many of his podcasts. I felt like they were basically the show notes. And it's if you haven't listened to his podcast, I think it's a great buy. But again, like I was such like a Tim Ferriss fangirl at the time.
Yeah. I've listened to maybe 10% of his podcasts.
Yeah.
And I found
some good stuff out there.
He's got tons of good stuff. Oh my God. I've read 4 Hour Body. I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, me too. I used to do the egg whites and spinach in the microwave.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then
that lasted about 10 days and I was like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. How about Robert Kiyosaki?
I did like his stuff. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That's actually one thing I think I was horrible with for a big chunk of my 20s was money. Managing your business's money. This is, I feel like, a great time for anybody. Hey, my business grossed over $1 million last year, and I went into panic mode because I had not been saving a ton of money, in anticipation of this, and now I have overhauled the finances of the business because we were growing. We've been growing by 30% year over year for 10 years, and it's been amazing. And I was like, we're gonna be great forever. Boom, gone. If you are starting out now, whether it's just you or you have employees, make sure you have a good financial plan. And it doesn't have to be something elaborate. Make sure you track your expenses. Make sure you're not spending more than the business is taking in. Make sure that you are not getting yourself too deep into credit card debt, because I did all of those things.
Yeah.
I was, oh my God, I was so stupid with money. And the funny thing was I was reading all those books. All these different financial books, all these like guys who were giving you advice. I was like, oh, I want to buy a house. And I was like, I'm going to spend a bunch of money on stupid stuff I don't need from Amazon. Or just, being an idiot 20 something.
Yeah. Basically it's about with everything, not just in business, but you set your intention and then you monitor your progress towards it. Yeah. And in that regard, it'd be create a budget. And don't spend outside your budget. And if you're looking at buying something, you go, okay, well, where in this budget is this categorized? Is it not? Great. You don't buy it. It's not in the budget. Or we have to make an official process for increasing the budget. But then you have to keep tracking that. And that's if you can do
so
that.
Easy, especially if like you're on your own and you've like, I had jobs since I've worked since I was like 13, 14 years old, but like I never had like a job with like infrastructure and stuff like that. So when I started, I was like, I don't know. Here's my credit card. Here's the money.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the store now.
Most dog walkers, when they start, their personal and their business is just integrated.
Oh yeah. My accountant last year was like, cause I think we only really started cleaning up our books properly, because I was funding our growth for the past, for, you know, most of the time that we've been in business. And
Totally.
I've been continuing to do that.
Yep.
So like my expenses and everything would be mixed. And he was like, this is a nightmare. I can't read through this stuff. Yeah, clean books are super, super important.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things, because one of the best part about being a business owner is
Freedom.
that you get this money and you can go, okay, do I want to invest it in a mutual fund or an ETF or something else? Or do I want to invest in my business?
Yeah.
Because you got full control, or a lot more control over the outcome. And if you're a person that likes to bet, uh, what better way to bet than on yourself?
Yeah.
And the problem is, so a lot of times, it's same with myself. Anytime we get profit, it usually gets rolled into the future for
That's
other
what we've
things.
been doing. Yeah. I mean, like we're in the process of taking on, biting off a huge chunk with, we're building this platform right now. And, I built a platform for the restaurant space about 6-7 years ago. It was like a fraction of what this is going to cost us. But we're, I've now been doing this for 10 years and I know exactly what needs to be built. So it's, hopefully
Yeah,
money well spent. We'll see in 2 years what happens. But yeah, because that's the other thing too, is like during COVID, we've had a couple of businesses reach out to us like, hey, we're thinking of getting out of town. You interested in buying us? And, I'm not interested in buying some of these businesses at the prices that they were talking about, but there's a few opportunities that we're interested in. And it's important because like you never know when that rainy day is going to happen,
yeah,
and you either need that emergency money or somebody comes along and is like, hey, I'm selling my grooming salon, or I'm selling this for whatever dollars. You negotiate
yeah.
it down. You're like, hey, here's X amount, cash in hand, done. You just bought another business and your business has just doubled your services and you now have access to a larger clientele. They're going to cross promote. Like there's just so much you can do.
Yeah, I find it hard when you buy a dog walking company. A lot of the people, they need to be really selling their entire brand for the money
Yeah.
they want. Otherwise, I'm buying a client list,
Yeah.
and I don't like. I spend less than 50 cents per client in terms of client acquisition, in
Yeah.
of our organic growth. And so that doesn't make sense for me to buy a client list. And I'm sure you've seen all that, unless the only time it would make sense, because then you got a capacity issue all over again, right? You
The
got,
staffing. Yeah.
if I buy someone's company for like 30 clients, they better be all in the same area. And if they're not, it's going to be a problem. And if it is, I still have a problem because I got to find someone if
Yeah.
it's themselves individually.
And getting them to stay too, because you don't know if they're going to stay. Like
They're not
what?
obligated.
Yeah.
They're not obligated. I remember someone wanting to sell me their business, and I explained to them that it would be clients only and like a client list, and they wanted me to buy their just 15 of their 5-day a week clients, and it sounded great, but the price was too much. And then 3 of those clients came over because,
Anyways.
yeah, once you stir the beehive,
Yeah.
it's like, we're leaving, do this, but here's the company I want you to walk your dog with. Anyways, they still are going to go Google search and start all over just to look,
Yeah.
and so it's better to invest in your branding and your just position yourself.
That was, I think, one of the biggest things I did during, built, and we still focus on is branding everything. Like for years, companies have laughed at me for having, all my employees, these are our old shirts. They were done poorly, so they taco, and it's very upsetting to me. But all of our staff have, branded shirts. They get sweatshirts, they get zip ups, they get pullovers, they get beanies, they get backpacks. We deck our team out. I pay my employees $200 a month so I can wrap their car with company branding. Like we do as much as we can to get the name and the imagery of the company out there, so people kind of are constantly seeing it and recognizing it and seeing it in the community. That's something that that is the one thing I think I was good at when I started, was I was like, people need to know who we are. And that's probably where my ego came in.
Yeah.
Hence Dan's dog walking. But
Would you say you're a jack of all trades or a specialist of none, or do you have like some areas that you're like, okay, I'm a specialist here and average there?
I definitely feel confident in the marketing branding space.
Right.
And like digital, so like website stuff. I'm starting to learn WordPress and getting my feet wet there. But like, you want me to build a Squarespace site, I'll have that done for you in an hour and a half. Yeah, the digital space and marketing and branding. Managing people's never been my forte. Like, I love people, but I've never been fantastic at managing them. So that took me some time, and that's why I hired my HR person.
Yep.
Organization I suck at. I constantly need help with that. And I think that took me a while, was getting to the point where like, hey, you're not good at this. You need to get on top of that. I'm always trying to learn new stuff though. And never get complacent with anything that you're doing.
I love that. I thought for some reason that there might be, I'm always amazed at how much there is to talk about in these podcasts.
Oh, there's so much.
In these interviews. And I thought we're going to be talking about all the projects you've been on, but we're way past the time that we can be going on. But I want to get a few nuggets from you.
Sure.
Firstly, routines. Do you have any routines? Do you just roll out of bed and rip it? Or do you have like some routines that you kind of...
I do have a routine.
Amazing.
This is a new one that's emerged, thank goodness, during COVID. One of my biggest issues was I always slept late. And by late, I mean like 9.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend is a super early riser. So I have now gotten to the point where I am up by 5:30. I get up, I have a protein shake and my coffee and some water. Go to the bathroom, listen to the news. And then by like 6:30, I'm in the gym. After I finish lifting, I'm trying to get up to like a 5-mile run each day, but I'm teetering at like 2 or 3. Finish that, go home, shower, have my breakfast. And then because I have like a 45-minute-ish drive to work, first call is usually to my lead manager. And then I will touch base with the person who's running all of our campaigns to check the numbers from the previous day. And then any calls that I have to do, I try to get them all done on my ride in. With the COVID blanket being lifted, the traffic is also coming back. So my ride is getting longer and longer each morning. But then when I get to the office, I really try to make sure I've got my actionable list for the day. What I'm working towards, though, and I need to make the switch, is the night before setting those goals.
It's exactly
and then
right.
At the end of the day, which is super, super important for me, is I have to unplug when I get home. Like, I will get sucked down to Twitter or whatever wormhole. So by 8 o'clock, I really try to put my phone down. My management team is luckily really, they're very good about staying on top of everything with the team if there is anything going on. Have my dinner, watch some TV. I've been trying to read more and trying to meditate at night before I go to bed. And then I'm trying to be in bed no later than 10 p.m., but I'm shooting for like 9. So I want to get up at like 4:30 eventually. Because like, oh my God, waking up in the morning, that like getting up. So like 5:30 is super early for me. I've never, like anyone who knows me, I've never been an early morning person.
Yep. My
anxiety's down. I feel better. I have more energy throughout the day. I'm just much more productive versus like, even if I woke up at 8:30, I get into the gym. I'm not done working out till like 9:30. I don't get in the shower and get out the door till 10:15. It means I don't get to the office till 11:15. Like, they don't need me here on site. But like starting my day that late, then it just snowballs into the next day. Like, starting your day early is one of the best things you can do, unless, it works for you the other way. I know for me, I thought it did and it didn't. So
I agree.
Even if you think it works, just give it a shot for a week and see how you feel.
I agree. And also, the one thing that's underestimated, and you don't really realize it until you start doing it, is being up that early and no one else is up. It's such a weird, comforting kind of just an experience to be like, I'm like up and no one else is. It's just like, I almost, I don't know if it's from like, you feel like you have an advantage.
No, you do. Absolutely.
You do have an advantage, but the feeling I get is just this weird feeling of like, this is right. It's nice to be able to just exist in a super early part of the day, and just witness that part of the morning for me is like a weird comforting blanket.
No, I love it. You know what? Another guy I love, Jocko Willink.
I was gonna say Jocko with his watch at 4:30.
With his watch every morning.
I know, I'm a big fan.
I'm gunning for that.
I bought his last book. His last book.
Which one? I love the Extreme Ownership.
I bought that one too. Yeah. And I'm only halfway through it, but like it's amazing. But it's
Yeah.
his last book. I don't know why I can't think of the title, but it's like a really small one. He just posted on social a couple weeks ago. But actually, let me just jog.
He did a children's book too, right?
Did he?
Like a children's-ish book. It's about like
Don't,
bullying or something.
don't tell me that's the one I'm reading. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Maybe. What is this?
I
Oh,
could be remembering it
discipline.
correctly.
Discipline equals freedom.
Oh, I love that. Gonna get it tattooed on my neck.
I know. I know. It's so conflicting. The first time I heard that, I'm like,
No,
nah.
but it's so
It's so
true.
true. It's so true. Yeah.
Like, you know, I get nuts if I don't get it. Like if I don't get out of bed at 5:30 and I wait till 6:30, because I'll like get up, but I'll be in bed. I'll kind of like lay on my phone, but I gotta get up and get that coffee. And my girlfriend was like, "Have your coffee. Just get go," because like she'll be up at 4. She goes to bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So she's up at like yesterday. She was like exhausted at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. She's like, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm like, if you go to bed now, you're gonna be up at like 3 a.m. Like you can't, this is not healthy anymore. But yeah, that early morning start is super important, and making sure you don't have to change your entire routine. Like that's the one thing I want to tell people is like, you don't have to do everything at once. Like I started getting it to where I was like, all right, I'm gonna get up at 7:30, get up, have a shake, go to the gym.
Yeah.
And not even like I lost almost, I'm down like 16 pounds beginning of COVID. I got a little comfortable and a little pudgy for a bit. But I just every day a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Oh, another one, David Goggins. If you want someone to scream at you, go on YouTube and listen to him.
Haven't heard of it.
Oh, David Goggins is a freaking animal.
I always say the best way to lose weight is to first gain it.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I think I've collectively lost and gained about 300 pounds. Like when I was a freshman in college, and this is not an exaggeration, I went in at 185.
Yeah.
I left 255.
Nuts,
Freshman
man.
year. I gained 70 pounds in like 9 months.
Easy to do.
Yeah.
See, it's friggin'.
It was very easy to do.
There's so like I just got the sense there's so much that like there's a lot of areas where I could have a deep dive with you on. Like it just seems, but I don't want to. We don't have any time right now. But like I would love to have you on again at some point.
Absolutely, whenever you want. This has been a blast.
I know it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. A very like-minded individual, and like you're concerned about the dogs, you're concerned about your employees, and just making a difference. It's amazing.
Caring is a big thing for me.
Caring, that's right. But caring with competence.
Yeah.
Oh, you got someone coming in already. Tell them to come on in. We're done.
Oh, no. Are you good? Okay. No, I just wanted, they were in the hallway talking. Yeah, no, it's, I don't know. What's the language situation here? Can I drop a little S-bomb or?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
so like, you know, I always call it the art of giving a shit.
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with people and your clients and your staff, it's the magical art of giving a shit. That's really what I've always looked at it as.
There's a lot of stuff that's the art of and not the science of.
Yeah.
You know, the art of giving a shit.
Because, you know, it's important that people know and understand you care. You know, like, and then that's not going to be like saying, I care about you. It's the actions.
It's the actions, and you may not be as good yet at
it takes
playing,
time.
but at least they know that this is me engaging in the act of giving a shit.
Yeah.
And I suck at it right now, or I'm good at it.
Yeah. And over time, you figure it out.
That's amazing. Okay. We're going to wrap this up. That's just a perfect place to end it.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been
amazing.
Thank
you for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Terrific.
Next time I'll have the mic situation situated better.
That was just fine. You did well on your own.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling them. I don't even need you anymore. No, God, I need him so badly here.
Yeah. Okay, dude. Take care. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and sorry. And just before, the website is Dan's Pet Care.
Yes, danspetcare.com. Our social media is at Dan's Pet Care for Twitter and Instagram. For Facebook, it is just look up Dan's Dog Walking and Pet Sitting. And then, our podcast, Let's Talk About Cool Animals, is available now. We have new episodes every Monday. Today's episode is about tardigrades. So it's not a specific cool animal. It's about tardigrades themselves.
Wait, was that your podcast I was listening about? No, it was Joe Rogan's that they were talking about tardigrades.
Oh yeah.
You're crazy. Oh, I can't. Anyways, we can't get back into that. But I know I can't wait to listen to that. So, and you're on all the platforms.
All the platforms, yes.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, well, have a great week.
Thank you. You too. I look forward to being on soon.
Take care, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.